I'm very excited to have Noressa Kennedy Hinkler with me today for today's digital marketing expert interview. Noressa, you are a digital marketing manager and social media specialist at Travel Nurse across America. And we actually connected on social media, on LinkedIn. You commented on one of my posts, and then we had a little exchange. And then I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and you have some pretty cool stuff on there that we're going to talk about today. That said, why don't you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Noressa Kennedy Hinkler. Like you mentioned, I am the digital marketing manager for Travel Nurse across America. We are a national brand that staffs travel nurses across the U.S. And my background is a blend of sales management and marketing with a specific 9 years in social media itself.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. How did you get into social media and digital marketing?
I actually took a social media topics class in college, and it proved to be one of my favorite classes with one of my most influential instructors. And the entire class was discussing exactly relevant ways that social media was a driving influence for individuals as well as businesses. So I always knew that I wanted to do something in a marketing facet, but that's really what sparked my social media interest specifically. And at the time, I was managing a retail store, so I took the task of initiating a Facebook page for that company. And that's when I really got to dive into the field and understand the importance of branding, because that's before I really knew how important branding was. And all I knew was that I wanted to really understand how an online presence could grow revenue for a local retail store without an online commerce already.
Awesome. So briefly talk about your current position and what are you in charge of today?
Okay. I actually joined my current company as a social media specialist and quickly began taking on other duties, which led to my position now. So I've recently started delegating some of the content and monitoring pieces on social media, but I work closely on the strategy behind the ads and the online presence and all.
Awesome. Go ahead.
I work closely on the strategy behind the social media, marketing, website, email marketing, SEO, and PPC. I handle all of our focus group initiatives and various communication pieces. And one of my big things is, if you've ever heard people don't leave companies, they leave managers, there's truth to it. I'm led by leadership that values innovative thinking, which is why I've been able to utilize experience that I already have and broaden my skill set. So the investment that makes you indispensable to a company, it's also said that just as much the company becomes unique to the workforce.
Wow, well said. Tell me about your first day at the helmet of social media Travel Nurse across America. How was that?
Aside from the introductory HR pieces that everyone has to go through, the first day was spent logging onto a computer. So I got login information to a computer, passwords to all of the social media accounts, and really began familiarizing myself with the industry. So the company had been outsourcing social media beforehand, so there wasn't anyone available to necessarily train me or for me to shadow coming into it. Now, having experience at a marketing agency before, I was prepared to hit the ground running and really devise a strategy.
Wow. So what happened in the next 2 to 3 months to follow? Briefly walk me through that process. What happened then?
The first thing was really assessing the current strategy, familiarizing myself with what the agency that they had been using had done, and really getting to know the industry terminology. So I began building consistency. I went through the profiles that they currently have. I shifted the tone of our social presence, focusing on being a more knowledgeable resource for our target audience. And then I improved the message response time. That's huge to me, the engagement on our profiles. I really focused on any time that anyone was engaging with us, quickly getting on that and responding in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So people respond to a genuine approach, and taking the extra time to have that significantly strengthened the engagement on our page and allowed me to fully understand what numbers and what analytics were being judged for me. So once I was able to really decipher what numbers were being looked at for my peak performance, I knew that the website visitors for our page was a huge driving force for what the company and the leadership was looking for. So I used that to build our brand's online story and ongoing content. And ultimately, that changed our social channels to a conversion tool for our website.
Man, everybody's doing social media these days, and I think most of us or most companies do it very poorly. So I really, I like the way we interacted on LinkedIn. It was it was real, and this is how we connected, right? And it seems like this is what you do with your potential customers. So, very impressive. What social media platforms are you managing?
Currently for TNAA, I manage Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter.
Wow. And feel free if you want to show something, just jump right into it. That's a lot of social media profiles.
It is, and everything is different for every company. I would love to be able to incorporate Snapchat as well, but you really have to figure out what works for your target audience.
Exactly. Do you use tools to manage these profiles, or what's your approach?
So I actually prefer working in the platforms themselves. And scheduling tools do work for a lot of people. That's perfectly fine. My coworker that is starting to take over the content and monitoring side actually uses CoSchedule. And I can show what CoSchedule looks like. So the difference between using a scheduling platform and one that I will continue to use is TweetDeck. That works really well for Twitter. I have used HootSuite in the past, but there are a couple different reasons why I prefer working directly in the platform. And one of them is the fact that you can't always change the link text in a scheduling platform. So for instance, if I was wanting to post about our company benefits, then I would go into the scheduling app and type in the website. So I've already entered our benefits page in there. But I can change the photo, but I can't change the text. So it won't let me click.
Yeah.
Whereas if I were in LinkedIn, the same link, obviously this image isn't going to work well. So I know off of building my brand, I want the image to be as clear as possible so that people are more likely to click it. So I can enter the link and I've actually just exited out of that. So I can change the image and I can also change the text.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge benefit. So this is called posting natively. It definitely takes a little bit more time, right?
It does. It takes more time, but one of the other reasons why I prefer going in-house is because you actually get to remember and keep track of when you are posting. It helps a lot with engagement. If you're using a scheduling app, you don't always keep track of when your posts are going live, and it's so important for you to really focus, again, on that response rate and the engagement between all of the platforms.
Yeah, so true. So I noticed when I read your LinkedIn profile, you grew your Facebook followers from 17,000 to 66,000. I consider that a success story. Tell us, how did you do that?
A success story that I am very much so proud of. And again, I've been with the company for a year and a half now, so it's not a long time for significant growth. The first thing that I did was set an expectation for the message response rate, and I talk about that a lot because it is crucial. So when someone is going to message you on your page, it will tell them exactly how long it takes you to reply. And what I like to get this down to, I've had it down to typically replies in two minutes. So Facebook changes this on a weekly basis, and unfortunately if no one messages you, then it extends the time, so we're at an hour right now. But typically we like to stay within that 10 to 30 minute reply time, just because if someone is on Facebook or LinkedIn, then they're typically scrolling through and they want things now. So if they're reaching out to you, you're likely going to miss them if you wait until they're not engaged with the app anymore.
Wow. And then, so are you responding, or do you have help with that?
So for the last year and a half, I've actually taken on, I am responding. So one of the things that I like to say is social media never sleeps. That means that if a message comes in, we have night nurses. If a message comes in at 2 a.m., in order to keep that response rate, that's one of the things that you have to focus on. So it's not expected for everyone to do that, but it's certainly something where you want to have a team behind you that is able to ongoingly answer all of the messages and keep that engagement up.
Yeah, so I often find that where the process is broken with many companies, they don't have a process in place. So it's not rocket science, but it has to be done and it has to be managed, right? That's probably the most difficult thing. Very cool.
Another one of the things is with reviews. One of the reasons why we were able to grow is because, again, with that engagement on the reviews aspect, and this is across all platforms, not just Facebook, but on reviews, it's very important for the company to respond. So we started responding to every review, whether it was positive or negative, because that approach is vital to a company, whether not just to respond to the positive things, because of course we love it when people talk positively about our brand, but also the negative, to let them know that we hear them and we're working on a solution for them. And that engagement is huge for people to continue to follow you, as well as new people to come in and see what you have to offer and then start following your brand.
Yeah, I mean, social media truly has become a customer relationship management opportunity. You know, this is how we communicate these days. So commend you for that. Let me see. What is the most effective platform for your company and why?
For us, it's Facebook, and that's largely part to our target audience, the engagement aspect. There's a direct access to our page as well as various industry-related groups. So on Facebook, you can look up different travel nursing-related groups, and there are ongoing conversations. So we're really able to dive into what is relevant to our target audience by researching those groups. Of course, LinkedIn has a significant impact on our business-to-business side. So again, it's different for every company. For us, we really value Facebook.
Awesome. Are you doing pay-per-click, and if so, is it working, and how?
Yes, and that's a big part of the content side. So for us, nursing, of course, has multiple segments to it within the nursing industry. So you could talk to the adventurer. We talk to people that want to travel for the adventure. The resume seeker, so people that are wanting to build their experience. And then the empty nester, someone that travels because they no longer have ties down at their current home situation. And so what works with our PPC is knowing the audience, knowing what messages are going to tug the heartstrings of our audience and really get them to act on the call to action that we have set in place.
Great. Like general best practices that you follow when it comes to digital marketing. So let's think big picture. I think a lot of the people that listen to or view this this interview, they may just get started with digital marketing and social media marketing. Big picture, like 2, 3, 4 tips on how to get started.
Personally, I like to follow the 80-20 rule. So stick to topics that are relevant to your industry, and have 80% be, whether they come from your blog, a third-party blog, information that's trending, that's still relevant to your industry, and then that 20% to be, obviously, we want to stack jobs. So 20% could be jobs that we have or things that our internal employees are doing, because, of course, that branding aspect is still important for people to know what happens behind the scenes in your business.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Well, the second thing would just be consistency with your messaging. Your social channels are the voice for your company, so it's really important to, I can't place enough stress on proofreading. Make sure that you proofread. Make sure that you are putting relevant, knowledgeable information out there that is coming from credible sources. And then finally, utilize your analytics. I love both content and analytics. I'm a words and a numbers person both. So make sure that you're using the information that's available to you. You can know exactly when your audience is online, exactly what they're engaging with, so topics to continue posting in the future, and then what the best time is to reach them and really set a professional tone for your business.
Wow. So social media is actually, I call it, we have this thing that we call the 5 pillars of SEO. Social media is pillar 5. The foundation is content marketing. So we do a lot of social media for our customers because Google pays very close attention to your social media activities, the links that you share out there. Are you seeing an increase in search traffic or referral traffic back to your website from the content that you're sharing?
Of course, and that's one of the important things, is since we know that sharing links to the website and driving that traffic there is important, a lot of the jobs that we post are going directly back to our website. So that's increasing our Google traffic from other relevant social media sites, all the way around. It's going full circle, and we've seen an incredible increase just in the last year.
Wow. All right, before we wrap it up, do you have one more last tip for our audience today?
My biggest tip is, throughout my experience, I have worked with companies just starting their social media profiles. I've worked with nonprofits that prefer to do everything organically, and I've worked with national brands that have a larger scale budget, but they have large scale expectations that come with that. So my greatest advice is to never assume that you've mastered marketing, especially social media. Trends and platforms are changing so quickly that there's always something more to learn.
Very well said. Hey, Noressa, I'm going to include a link to your LinkedIn profile in this blog post where we're embedding this video. Are you open to new connections? People are
Of course. I encourage people to send me messages. I will try to respond as quickly as I do to our company page, and I encourage anyone to reach out with questions or with tips that work for them.
Cool. Hey, thanks so much for your time. That was great. I'd love to team up again sometime in the future. And we're going to stop the recording right here. Thank you, Noressa.
Thank you.